Every class has that one student who lights up the whole room just by walking in, and also that one guy who sits in the back like he's invisible and nobody even bothers to learn his name. But what if those two stories collided? That's exactly what happened with Maki, a lonely, forgettable nerd, and Umi, a stunning, popular girl. A friendship absolutely nobody saw coming. It's springtime. Inside the classroom, the teacher introduces herself to the class and immediately kicks things off with that dreaded first day ritual, the personal introduction. Every student gets a sheet of paper to write a little about themselves, and the teacher draws them randomly to decide who goes first. And the first one up is Maki. The dude feels that wave of anxiety crash into him, but he stands up anyway, slouched, insecure, basically talking to the floor. On his sheet, he wrote that he likes gaming, though he doesn't have a super specific preference. The teacher asks if he has any plans for the weekend. Plans? Maki? Every single Friday looks exactly the same. Mom's at work, he's home alone, orders a pizza, cracks open a soda, and games non-stop in front of the TV. When he gets tired of that, he watches videos on his computer. And movies? The guy is all about shark movies, crocodile flicks, giant monster in the water type stuff. For some reason, that last part catches Umi's attention. Next up is you. She shoots out of her seat with this insane amount of energy, and instantly, the whole class starts buzzing. Yu's angelic looks were just impossible to ignore. The way her hair moved, the way she carried herself. She introduces herself with so much enthusiasm, mentions she transferred from an all-girls school but wanted to spend high school in a mixed setting. Then she wraps Umi in a big hug. They went to the same school. Yu basically drags Umi into doing her own intro too. Umi says with mild irritation that yeah, she came from the same school as Yu, and having to deal with her again was honestly kind of a drag. Some guys whisper in the back, bro, this class was absolutely stacked. Maki watches the two of them and thinks, yep, those two would be the center of attention for the rest of the year. Not that any of that had anything to do with him, obviously. And sure enough, Maki stayed on the outside looking in. He'd always been a loner, all the way up to high school. The daily routine of a popular person is a completely different world, right? But for a loser like Maki, it was school, home, and on free days, locked in his room. He was used to it. Not that he liked it, of course. For a while, all he really wanted was just to laugh and hang out with friends after school. That's it. Nothing crazy. Meanwhile, Yu was nuzzling her head against Umi and going on about all kinds of nonsense. Guys wouldn't stop talking. The two of them together were seriously hard to ignore. Yu's smile was just ridiculously contagious. But then one guy whispers, Umi's gorgeous and super chill too. It's just that standing next to Yu, she kind of fades into the background a little. Maki accidentally starts picking up on their conversation. Umi was planning to watch a movie, and Yu wanted to know which one. Umi turns her phone screen around. Yu looks at it and makes a face. Umi's taste was kind of out there, but Yu tries to backpedal. She wasn't judging, obviously, not at all. But Umi already knew Yu would never be into that kind of movie, so she'd watch it alone, like always. Maki was at a video rental store, browsing the shelves. He scanned one row, then another. Made up his mind, went for a classic, reached out his hand and, oops, his fingers touched someone else's. He apologized, still not really looking up. It was Umi. She'd been right next to him the whole time, and the nerd hadn't even noticed. The two of them talk for the first time. Maki remembers and asks if she didn't have something going on today. Umi steps a little closer. So he'd been eavesdropping on her conversation with Yu? She tells him that's not cool, but honestly, it was kind of hard not to hear. Those two were loud as sirens. Umi apologizes for her chaotic best friend, but about that thing she'd mentioned to Yu, it was sort of true. The real reason she hadn't gone out with Yu was Maki himself. Umi had something to sort out with him. She pulls a piece of paper from her pocket. It was that self-introduction sheet from class. The two of them had a crazy amount in common: skills, interests, hobbies. Umi had been looking for exactly this, someone like her. But during the class introduction, she hadn't wanted to let any of that slip. She kept it to herself. Then Umi asks which movie Maki would recommend. She was new to this whole genre. Since day one of school, she'd wanted him to show her the ropes. Maki hands her a DVD. Piranha Shark. Umi's face says it all. What does a piranha shark even mean, bro? And just like that, the two of them start going back and forth trading the nerdiest movie takes. Just like that, without anyone around to notice. The friendship between Maki and Umi quietly began. The three popular girls glide down the hallway, Yu, Umi, and Nina, passing right by Maki. His phone buzzes. Umi glances back with a small, sneaky smile. On the screen, Umi hitting him up to hang out. That afternoon, Umi shows up at his place. Maki had already ordered the pizza. She pulls a soda and some chips out of her bag and asks what he got. The two of them start rattling off the pizza toppings at the exact same time, completely in sync, proof that their taste really was identical. Cheers to Friday. Pizza spread out on the table, controller in hand, game fired up. Battlefield Star, 1-on-1. Umi was absolutely convinced she was about to destroy Maki, hand him a loss he'd never forget. Last time she'd dropped every single match, but that did nothing to shake her confidence. The pizza slices kept disappearing. The game was pure suffering for Umi, and a total breeze for Maki. Game over. Umi nearly takes her frustration out on the floor, but Maki tells her to chill. Don't mess with the neighbors downstairs. She begs for a rematch, eyes watering. It was already late at night when Umi finally headed out. Maki grabbed the cups and she handled the floor. That's when Maki, totally by accident, glanced at Umi's figure. She noticed, asked why he was looking at her like that, fixed herself up, crossed her arms, called him a creep. Maki tried to explain. It was just that Umi ate so much and stayed so slim, unlike him. She turned to face him and said it was because she worked out. Then she stepped closer, pointing right at his little belly, pinched his weak spot, flashed a smirk, and launched herself at him, going absolutely feral with tickles. He'd bodied her in the game. Now it was time to collect. It was the third time they'd hung out, and it had been way too much fun. Neither of them could have imagined getting this close to someone. Maki says Umi is kind of weird for hanging out with a guy like him, even if they do share the same interests. She fires back. Maki was way weirder for inviting a girl over to his place right off the bat, but he only had games on the brain, so what could you do? Umi invites Maki to actually go out sometime. For real this time. Maki tells her to hold on and asks if she actually wants to leave the house. Obviously, students need to breathe once in a while, right? Go shopping, grab food, hit up an arcade. It wasn't fair to rely on Maki's place as their only hangout, so she was going to teach him how to actually enjoy life outside four walls. Just the two of them. Even if the friendship stayed a secret from everyone at school. It was a necessary call. If anyone found out, it would turn into annoying drama one way or another. Umi promised she'd figure out a way to make their meetup fly under the radar, even if they bumped into someone. They were young. They needed a little thrill in their lives. And if someone did find out, they could just own it. That honestly wouldn't even be the worst thing. Umi jokes that she'd just tell everyone at school they were dating. Simple. Maki, completely deadpan. But, we're not dating? At home, Maki asks his mom Masaki for more allowance since he's going out with a friend. Ms. Masaki literally cannot process this. Had her hearing gotten worse? Was someone shaking down her son for money? Was this an imaginary friend? Of course not. Maki had actually made a real friend. Ms. Masaki opens her wallet on the spot and hands her son a fat stack of cash, absolutely beaming. In their chat, Maki and Umi exchange messages with disguised profile pics. His, a soda can, hers, a shark. They confirm how much spending money they're each bringing. Could not be more low-key. Back in class, the three popular girls are chatting while Maki settles into his seat. He glances over at Umi, and she gives him this tiny little hand signal. You clock something's off. Umi plays it cool. Just a little itch. Lunchtime. Maki eating alone as usual. He's sitting there wondering if he's actually a good friend to Umi. Then he notices some commotion nearby. Some guy was about to shoot his shot right there. Maki's first instinct was to bounce before things got weird. But then Umi's two friends appear out of nowhere. Yu faceplants onto the floor, notices Maki there and talks to him. Nina, on the other hand, had no idea who the guy from their own class even was. Whatever. The two of them shove Maki forward to watch the guy confess to Umi, and the second prettiest girl in class just got asked out and shot it down cold. The guy pushes, asks if Umi had a boyfriend, if she liked someone, if they could at least be friends. All rejected. Just like that. Ice cold. Nina, Yu, and Maki stand there dissecting that legendary rejection. Umi was always like this. Nobody was surprised. But the guy had also tried a little too hard. Cute enough, but way too desperate. Yu explains to Maki that this same guy had tried his luck with her a while back too. Maki did not think that was a good look. He figured Yu was pulling moves like that behind the scenes too. Yu confirms, but only because Umi was her best friend, okay? Umi finally puts the situation to bed once and for all. Yu apologizes for dragging Maki into the whole mess. Nina tells her to hurry up. So Yu asks to borrow Maki's phone. He hands it over without thinking much, but Yu just wanted to slip her own number in, on the sly. Maki told Umi he'd seen the whole thing since he was eating nearby, said he'd been worried about her, figuring she'd be upset. But Umi was the one who apologized for making him worry. She wasn't mad, not even a little. Maki asks if she's always been this popular. Kind of, though nothing close to Yu's level. Why'd he ask that? Jealous? Not even close. He just thought that kind of popularity seemed like a problem. Umi wants to know why. She pushes, leans in with a smile on her face, fully ready to hear this. Maki tells her not to laugh, but here goes. Popularity was something he couldn't even really wrap his head around. It means a bunch of people see you a certain way, right? They want to get closer, they want something special from you. And on top of that, you have to manage everyone in just the right way. That's exhausting. Being alone is rough too, but it beats stressing over stuff that doesn't actually matter. Umi gets where he's coming from, even if she thinks he's being a little dramatic. Says she likes that side of Maki, but just as friends, okay? Maki says the same thing right back. He doesn't dislike Umi, but just as friends. Maki only has Umi as a friend. Umi only has Maki as a hobby buddy. The two of them pick up their controllers, ready to go. Maki warns her. Zero mercy this time. Same as always, the week dragged by in the usual grind, and then Friday rolled around, the day they'd planned. Umi makes up an excuse to her friends and dips out early. Yu notices she seemed way too happy on her way out. Nina immediately calls it, must be a boyfriend. Yu says that's ridiculous, Umi wouldn't do that. Or would she? Umi lightly boops Yu on the head, telling her not to feed into Nina's nonsense. More people start crowding around the girls. Maki gets up and walks out. He was already at the meetup spot, stressing about whether he'd shown up too early, whether he looked okay, whether his outfit was right. Then Umi appears, taps him on the shoulder. Maki practically jumps out of his skin. Umi immediately roasts his outfit, pretty much what she expected, but she admits Maki was giving off kind of a brooding vibe with that look. Acceptable, but next time, bring some color. Maki points out that Umi had also shown up way before the agreed time. She brushes it off. She knew he'd be early, so she didn't want to leave him standing there alone. Umi likes the spot he picked. It was something fresh. When she hangs out with her usual crew, they never go to places like this. Maki responds, and Umi tells him to stop being so formal. They're friends, come on. Maki switches to her last name. Still not satisfied, Umi complains he didn't use her first name. Maki says he'll use her first name if she uses his. But then Umi says they're not close enough for that. Maki calls her an idiot. Umi gets annoyed and threatens to drag him over to the spicy food section right then and there. Okay, snack break. Umi recommends a movie to Maki. A really good one called Angel Shark. It's about a genetically engineered shark with angel wings that goes on a killing spree. And the kicker, the wings look absolutely ridiculous. The two of them dive deep into the conversation, hyped out of their minds. That movie becomes next week's plan. Maki asks if all these hangouts are going to be a problem for Umi, but no. She thinks he's really considerate for even asking. Suddenly, some girls nearby recognize Umi and start whispering, isn't that the girl who coldly rejected that upperclassman? She's pretty and everything, but she really thinks she's all that. Umi gets visibly uncomfortable. Then she asks Maki if he was willing to be a little embarrassed for her sake. Didn't even wait for an answer. Umi started talking super loudly, feeding Maki bites of food, calling him babe and all that, pretending he was her boyfriend. The girls were shook, Maki too. He almost blows the whole act, but Umi kicks him in the shin under the table. Then she ends up making Maki feed her too. And the poor guy's hands are literally shaking as he hands her the bite. The girls talk even louder. How do you reject an upperclassman and then end up with some boring-looking guy? Umi stands up, fuming. How dare these clowns say something like that? They didn't even know Maki. Maki calms her down, says it's fine, but even the food kind of lost its taste after that. Umi has an idea. What about the arcade? The two of them have an absolute blast. They sit down on a bench, taking a breather. Umi says she's gonna run to the bathroom. Maki sits there lost in his thoughts. He never thought he'd actually go out like this with someone. Sometimes it's worth taking that leap and dealing with a little awkwardness. Out of nowhere, Yu, Nina, and two other guys appear. Maki nearly has a heart attack. Nina asks who the heck this guy even is. Yu reminds her about that time they were spying on Umi, and clarifies that Maki is in their class. Yu asks if he's there with someone after noticing a second backpack sitting next to him. Maki calls Umi in the bathroom. She picks up and immediately hears Yu's voice from across the room. Maki tries to step away from the group, but Yu keeps pressing him to hang out with them. Nina tries to slow Yu down a little, but Yu keeps going, convinced it'd be more fun this way. Then she turns to Nina and asks if she by any chance might actually be feeling some type of way about Maki. Nina denies it, all flustered and stuttering. Yeah, sure. And that's when Maki understood exactly why Umi went out with just him on weekends. Maki turns Yu down. Going out in a group can be fun, but there are people who just can't vibe with that setting. You end up forcing yourself not to ruin the mood, constantly worried, running on empty. That wears you out, man. On the train heading home, Umi thanks Maki for saving her. It had all started about a year ago, when Umi got more serious about her hobbies. Growing up, she'd always been the one in charge, organizing the friend group, handling drama, stepping up when nobody else would. At first, people are grateful, but eventually it just becomes expected. The pressure piles up, and when the mental exhaustion finally hit hard enough, that's when she found her current hobby. She'd wanted someone to talk to about all of it. She could have told Maki earlier, but she'd been careful about how she approached getting close to him. Umi tells Maki to take the open seat. She worked out, she was strong, she could handle standing. She also apologizes for putting him through all that. She'd deal with Yu later. Yu had already texted asking what she should do, because she felt bad about how she'd acted toward Maki and wanted to make it right. Umi starts gently running her hand through Maki's hair, completely irresistible. Tells him he can go ahead and sleep if he wants. The next day, Yu is standing in front of Maki apologizing for what happened. Students around them start staring, baffled by the whole scene. Maki kept trying to reassure Yu that everything was fine, meanwhile freaking out internally about all the eyes on them. Yu thanks him for forgiving her and invites Maki to hang out later, saying it loudly, and even brings up the phone numbers they'd exchanged the other day. That was supposed to be a secret. The surrounding students stare at the potential couple with completely confused expressions. Umi, Yu, and Maki walk together to have a little talk. Yu opens up a bit about Umi. She had absolutely no idea the two of them had been hanging out. The two girls noticed they're being tailed by Nina. That girl had the most suspicious energy ever. Umi grabs Maki's arm, and the three of them take off running to lose Nina. They book it. At Maki's place, Umi brings up the subject from the week before. That whole spying situation, seriously. And another thing, why did the two of them have each other's numbers? After the explanations, both of them apologize for having spied on Umi. She tells them to come in close and flicks them both right on the forehead. Deserved. Yu apologizes again for what she'd said to Maki. He explains that he gets anxious in big groups. Yu gets it, then asks if he really cares a lot about this friend of his. Umi and Maki both turn 10 shades of red. Umi says they should all head out already, but before that, Yu asks Maki if he wants to be her friend. Umi looks over at the whole thing and... a perfectly normal school day, or so it seemed, starting with Yu rushing over to greet Maki like he was the best thing since sliced bread. The rest of the class, though, totally weirded out. Maki was basically the school's biggest loser in everyone's eyes, so this whole dynamic made zero sense to them. Nina rolls up to chat with Yu and, once again, can't even remember who Maki is. Yu, completely unbothered, tells her with a big smile that the two of them are friends now. They just clicked, simple as that. The class immediately starts side-eyeing the situation, grossed out by Maki, convinced Yu must be getting threatened or something. The whole thing was starting to weigh on Maki a little, but Yu? She could not care less what anyone thinks, dude. A text notification. It was Umi, apologizing on behalf of her friend. Things were getting awkward for Maki with everyone watching. Then Yu hits Maki with a lunch invite, just the two of them. But Umi had already jumped in and messed up the vibe, which was a problem. For Yu, at least, since Maki doesn't really do well in big crowds. So why not keep it small? The thing is, that would have been kind of awkward, right? Okay, fine. It'd probably be better if Umi came along. Nobody's gonna argue with that. At lunch, Maki leads them both to a quiet corner table on campus, because whenever Yu and Umi are near him, people can't stop staring. He does a quick wipe down of the table, lost in thought. Never in a million years did he think he'd be having lunch with the two most gorgeous girls in school. Yu immediately zeroes in on Maki's lunch. It honestly looked amazing. They do a little food swap. Wait, Maki cooked all of this himself? Bro, this nerd is more domestic than the girls themselves. Yu takes a bite. Oh wow, that hits different. Even Umi gets curious. She sneaks a little taste and it's so good it honestly feels unfair. Maki's got a whole dessert game going on, and that gets Yu's full attention. The best thing he's ever made was a souffle pancake, which immediately crushes Yu's dreams. She'd been low-key thinking she could take him in a bake-off, but nope. The competition was over before it even started. Following a recipe step by step while watching a YouTube tutorial sounds easy, but not for Yu, which is a bummer, because she's been craving pancakes so bad. So Maki offers to make some for her. Win. Every single happy button in her brain just got pressed at once. Yu asks if she and Umi can come over that same day. Obviously, yes. Yu bolts out of there like a golden retriever who just heard the word walk. Undeniable. Umi hangs back with Maki and takes the chance to ask him something real. Whether all the jealousy from their classmates over this friendship was getting to him. Maki, just like Yu, is totally over it. He was already flying solo before any of this happened. Umi adds one more thing. If anyone ever comes at him, don't hesitate to let her know. It was something she couldn't fully predict, after all. Yu's basically considered the hottest girl in school. Maki's not really here for that kind of talk. All this stuff about Yu being number one and Umi being number two. To him, it's just bored students with too much time on their hands. As Umi walks away, she throws something out there almost casually, that even as a girl herself, she sees something really special in Yu. So sooner or later, Maki was going to fall for her too. But what exactly did Umi mean by that? A little while later, in the girls' locker room, Nina pushes Yu on it. How does she even like Maki that much? Yu says Maki's genuinely a good person. He has his own opinions, sees things differently. She even tells Umi they're kind of alike. A hint of a blush creeps onto Umi's face, and that was a good sign. It was already getting dark when the girls showed up at Maki's place. He served the pancakes he'd promised, and both of them were blown away. Maki was seriously talented in the kitchen. Even when Yu follows the recipe to the letter, her pancakes always come out wrong. Umi says it's because she just half-heartedly throws everything together. Yu fires back immediately, bringing up the charcoal cookies Umi had made on Valentine's Day. It wasn't Valentine's Day, it was just a friend gift exchange at school. Maki takes the opening to ask, why did the two of them transfer schools? They used to go to the most prestigious all-girls school in the area. Anyway, game time. Yu was way too good, there was no way this was her first time playing. Umi was getting visibly frustrated, and just to twist the knife, Yu beats her with some random move she'd literally just discovered. Even she had no idea what she'd done. Maki got eliminated too. He scoots over to Yu to learn this broken technique. Umi watches the two of them huddled together, looking like she has 1,000 thoughts running through her head all at once. Later that night, the girls head out from Maki's place. Halfway down the street, Yu suddenly realizes she forgot something. She'd wanted to do something to thank Maki, but totally spaced on mentioning it. Maybe grab food together sometime. Something like that. Umi immediately says she'll sit that one out, feeling like a third wheel, since Yu clearly just wants to get closer to Maki on her own. Yu pulls out her phone and asks Maki if he's free Friday. That question hits Umi somewhere she wasn't expecting. Of all days, Friday. The call ends, and Yu announces that Maki's already got plans Friday. That lands right in Umi's chest. She feels this pull to go back to him. She tells Yu she forgot her phone and slips away. Umi rings the doorbell, and the second Maki opens the door, she grabs his nose and squeezes it hard, happy that he'd stayed loyal to their special day together. She doesn't say anything else, just waves and sprints away. Friday finally comes. Maki and Umi are playing games. But what Umi actually wanted was to read manga in Maki's room. He'd just gotten a new one, never read it, so the two of them settled in to read together. In his room, sitting on the bed, totally absorbed in the story. What a wild ending. They go through one volume after another. Time keeps slipping by. Maki finishes another one, gets up to make some coffee, but when he glances back at his bed, there's Umi, completely knocked out. Maki leans back too, and drifts off right next to her. He wakes up to a girl's voice. He starts to apologize to Umi for falling asleep on her, but the voice was coming from behind him. So this girl's name is Umi? Maki spins around. It's his mom, already demanding answers, and he knew immediately he was so done. Masaki, Maki's mom. She's already on the phone with Umi's mom, asking permission for Umi to spend the night since it's way too late to be heading home now. Masaki tells Umi she can borrow some of her clothes after she showers. Umi is mortified by the whole situation, but Maki tries to reassure her. No big deal. Umi heads off to take her well-earned shower. Maki tries to duck out too, but Masaki blocks him. She still wants answers. She says she'd been noticing a hint of perfume every time she came home from work lately, and now she wants to know exactly how long Umi had been coming around without her knowledge. Maki says there's nothing to stress about. Yeah, Umi had been coming over for the past 2 months, but she's just a friend. Masaki trusts her son, but wants him to be careful, because at the end of the day, Umi is a girl. Maki shuffles back to his room, a little on edge and restless. Umi knocks and steps in wearing his hoodie. Masaki's clothes hadn't fit her quite right. Maki tries to slip out to sleep on the couch. Umi tells him to hold on. She's not tired and just wants to talk for a bit. He gets nervous. They chat about the random nap they'd both taken earlier, and soon enough they land on something that actually matters. They need to talk to you about all of this. It just has to be the right moment. This time Maki really does head for the door. It's time to sleep, man. Umi calls out one last time. Good night. They both go red in the face. Too cute. The next day, Umi walks Maki over to her house. Maki is nervous, naturally. He was about to meet his potential future mother-in-law, basically. Umi's mom opens the door and welcomes them both in. Maki introduces himself a little over the top, but whatever. She introduces herself too. Sora, mother of this chaos gremlin right here. Sora starts with Umi right away, not trying to be harsh. She just didn't want her disappearing without a heads up. All she asked was that Umi let people know so nobody's left worrying. And then comes the big one. Maki, how exactly did you and Umi get close? Sora had already asked Umi the same thing before, but Umi had completely shut it down. None of anyone's business. Maki almost spills everything, but Umi absolutely will not let that happen. Why couldn't Sora know? I mean, this was Umi's first boyfriend. Curiosity's natural, right? Umi is a whole cocktail of stress and embarrassment, frantically signaling Maki to drop it. She disappears into the kitchen and comes back with a peach to diffuse the tension. A peach. Sora pokes fun at Umi's face again. Aw, how sweet. Peeling a peach for her boyfriend even though she's such a disaster in the kitchen. Then she turns to Maki with one simple ask. Take care of Umi from here on out. As chaotic as she is, she's a good girl. Sora cranks up Umi's suffering even further by inviting Maki to stay over. Pure evil. Weekend's over, back to school. The teacher kicks things off with a raffle. The school had a festival coming up and needed student reps. She already knew nobody would volunteer, so raffle it is. Maki gets drawn, male representative. The class immediately starts roasting, saying whoever the girl was that got picked alongside him was seriously unlucky, having to stand next to a loser like that. The girls were panicking. Nobody wanted to be paired with Maki, especially Nina. All of it was slowly getting under Umi's skin. The girls went up one by one to grab their slips, visibly relieved not to have been picked. Maki had seen this coming. It still stung. And then, heavy footsteps, a rush of air, and a presence that completely locked Maki's attention. It was you, walking straight to the front of the room. She had a lot to say to these clowns. While the whole class was openly trash-talking Maki, Yu stepped up and planted herself right in front of everyone because she wanted to protect him. She starts asking why there's so much hate. What was even the reason for all that beef with Maki? She'd been watching him suffer for no reason this whole time. The class went quiet, heads down. They knew they were wrong. Then Yu asks the teacher if she can be Maki's partner for the festival presentation. But hold on, the representative had to be whoever got picked in the lottery. Maki says he doesn't mind if Yu ends up as his partner, so why not? That's when Umi raises her hand and says she's the one who got picked, but Yu was the one who wanted to be by Maki's side. Umi pushes back. It's the rules. The rep has to be whoever was drawn, and she tells Yu to chill out a little. She gets that Yu got emotional seeing Maki get treated like that, but she went too far, like she killed the whole vibe in the room. Seeing the damage she'd caused, Yu apologized to the class and to Maki. Anyway, according to the lottery, the committee representatives would be Maki and Umi. A little while later, the students head to the committee meeting. Maki compliments Umi. She's seriously amazing. She soaks it up, fishing for more praise, but says the truly amazing one is Yu, having that kind of guts to tank the whole class's mood, all for Maki's sake. Umi admits she could never do what Yu did. Maki notices Umi looking a little down. He feels guilty about what went down in class, and now he wants to give it his all. The student council president walks in, and the meeting kicks off. On the way out, Yu runs up to Umi and grabs her arm to thank her, because if Umi hadn't stopped her, she would have said way worse things to the class. Umi pinches Yu's cheek and turns the thanks right back around. But why? She doesn't answer, just says how annoying it is to have to fight over stuff like this. To Yu, Umi has always been like a prince ever since they were little. The two of them walk home together. The next day, Umi and Maki pitch the festival proposal. Their class would be in charge of the exhibit. Ugh, seriously? Umi tells everyone to quit complaining and says that if they contribute ideas, she'll greenlight cosplay for the festival. Yu and Nina, looking absolutely iconic in cosplay. Yu complains, why just her and Nina? Isn't Umi doing it too? Nope. Umi would have to stay behind the scenes as the producer. Maki agrees, right? He doesn't even want to answer. He's nervous. Umi turns back to the class needing ideas for the exhibit. Nobody had a single clue. Well, actually, Maki did. Excuse me. He raises his hand, a little shaky. A mosaic made out of cans. The whole class clears out, leaving Umi and Maki alone in the room. She hypes up Maki's brilliant idea, except he's already drained, burned out after just the first meeting. But he says it's really great having Umi by his side. If it were Yu, he never could have pulled it off. Umi lights up, says she got super lucky in the lottery. Lucky? No way. She wasn't actually picked. She faked it. Maki is blown away. Umi pulled through again. She asks if he'd be mad, but nope. He's just glad she did it. Meanwhile, Yu is the Minister of Colors. She's sorting every single can into exactly the right spot. Back to Umi and Maki. The two are working on the layout for the exhibit. Umi isn't feeling her own drawing, thinking she didn't manage to make it stand out. Maki says it looks great. Now they just need to color it. Then the Minister of Colors herself, Yu, comes in looking panicked. A bunch of the cans are gross on the inside, with stuff like cigarette butts in them. Maki and Umi tell her it just needs a quick rinse. Then Yu spots a manga on the table and asks if she can draw one of the characters from it. Umi feels a little sting inside. She already knew Yu's drawing was going to blow hers out of the water. And she was right. Yu's drawing was insane. It looked like something straight out of a professional illustrator's portfolio. An uncomfortable feeling crept up in Umi. But when Maki noticed, she smiled and told Yu to take over the drawings. Nina could be the new Minister of Colors. When no one was looking, Umi crumpled up her own drawing, crushed. Everything was falling into place. Nina handled the cans, and Yu handled the art. The whole thing turned out stunning. Umi hands the drawing to some girls in the class. They're completely in awe. Yu really is good at everything, except studying. The girls switch topics and thank Umi. One of them says they got carried away and treated Maki really badly. It wasn't Yu's fault for getting upset, but if Umi hadn't stepped in, it would have been so much worse. Umi breaks into a smile, says Maki works so hard and he needs everyone's support. She says her goodbyes and heads out. When she checks her phone, she sees a string of texts from Maki asking her to come over. Even though it's Friday, she needed to get some rest. Back at home, Maki's at his laptop working on the project, figuring out where each kin would go. He keeps thinking about Umi. It sucked not having her there. Maki couldn't take it anymore and just called her. She was at karaoke, but stepped outside to take his call. During the call, he says how annoying it is to only talk through texts, and asks if, in case it wasn't too much trouble, she could maybe swing by his place. Umi hears all of that, and with her full chest tells Maki to just admit he missed her. It was so obvious, dude. There was no point in denying it. Maki doesn't want to admit it. To cut through the tension, he says he'll just handle everything on his own. But before he hangs up, Umi says she will come over, because she was feeling a little lonely too. Yu follows Umi out of the room, worried. Umi makes up an excuse. She had to head home early because something came up. And so, Umi finally arrives at Maki's place, where she always felt right at home. She looks at the project, genuinely impressed. It had come a long way. Maki sits down next to her, apologizing for the last-minute invite. Oh, no worries at all. Umi just wants to lay down for a bit. Can Maki let her take a little nap too? But she says he looked like a total creep when he said it like that. Hey, she'd already slept over before. The good news is Maki's mom gave Umi full permission to kick him if he tried anything funny. Maki grabs his laptop, brushing off the comment. Umi relaxes, resting her head on his shoulder. She wanted to say something. The doorbell cuts through the moment, startling them both. It was Yu. Maki opens the door, but she doesn't even acknowledge him. She just pokes her head in and calls out for Umi. Umi appears, caught off guard. Yu steps inside Maki's place for a talk, saying she wouldn't stay long. She didn't want to get in the way of the couple's moment. But how did Yu even figure out they were a thing? When Umi started being less present, always making excuses about going home. That's what tipped Yu off. But why hadn't Umi told her any of this? Maki steps up and takes the blame. He was the one who asked Umi to keep it a secret. Yu asks Umi directly if that's true, but she says nothing. So Yu was the only one who thought they were best friends? Umi says that's not it. Then what is it? It was a secret. Umi had always lived in Yu's shadow. Yu was always everyone's favorite. Even their other friends would make up excuses not to hang out with Umi. And when she realized she was being left out, that part Umi can't bring herself to say. She puts on her shoes, says goodbye to Maki, and leaves. Yu tried to go with her, but Umi wanted to go home alone. The next day, Maki had blown up Umi's phone with messages, but she just left them on read. He couldn't stop thinking about her, until Yu and Umi showed up behind him saying, "Good morning." Umi talks to Maki like nothing ever happened. His phone buzzes. It was Yu, apologizing for everything that went down. Yu tells Maki that Umi was acting completely normal, like nothing had happened at all. Neither Maki nor Yu could figure out how to bring it up. Maki sits alone with his thoughts. This whole time he'd been caught up in the secret he shared with Umi, but now he realizes Umi is carrying a secret all her own, one that might be a whole lot heavier. Maki walks over to Umi, who was in the middle of setting things up for the festival. He pulls her aside for a private conversation, says he had something important to tell her. Again, the whole class loses it. That makes Umi uncomfortable, and she tries to convince Maki to save it for later. She was busy. Yu and Nina say they've got everything covered, so Umi was free to go talk. Umi hesitates a little, but fine. The two of them head off to a small empty room. There, Umi wastes no time calling Maki an idiot for saying that in front of everyone, considering they have a secret relationship. Maki says it's because she leaves him on read. She's torn. If she replies, well, the two of them get to work and start picking up the cans. Then Umi brings it up herself, asking if Maki even wanted to know why she'd been avoiding him. She didn't want to talk about it, but she couldn't keep dodging it forever. Honestly, Maki does want to know what's going on in Umi's head, but he's not going to force her to talk. She asks if everything would be okay, even if she never said a word. Right as Maki is about to answer, Umi surprises him by hugging him from behind. He freezes at the gesture. Umi starts talking, her voice heavy. She tells him how much of an idiot he is. A total idiot. Being kind is one of his best qualities, but being too kind makes you naive. And that way, people with bad intentions can take advantage of you. People like Umi. Maki tries to turn around. She won't let him. She didn't want him looking at her face. Umi asks one last question. If she told him how she really felt, would he actually listen? He says yes. He would listen, but Umi would only say it after the festival was over. She needed to talk to Yu first too, so Maki would just have to wait. The day of the festival finally arrived. The place was packed. Live music performances, girls in cosplay, and that massive can mosaic. Everything came together perfectly. At the end of it all, Umi and Maki sit side by side on the rooftop, grateful that everything worked out. Maki makes a request. He asks to hold Umi's hand, because her hands are always so cold. Umi realizes he was trying to cheer her up, and she takes his hand. Says Maki's hand is warm. Their sweet little moment gets interrupted when Yu shows up with two other girls. She wants to introduce them to Maki, saying they were friends of both her and Umi. Umi shuts that down. Those two weren't her friends, just Yu's. And now Umi is going to have to put it all out there. She's finally about to open up about her inferiority complex. When she was just a little kid, Umi used to hang out with these two girls. One day, while they were all walking together, she spotted a girl standing alone up ahead. That blonde hair was impossible to miss. Umi told the girl she had something to take care of and broke away from the group. When she walked up to the girl, they locked eyes, and Yu's were full of tears. Introductions went like this. My name's Umi. My name's Yu. Umi sat down next to her. She wanted to understand why this girl was so completely alone. Yu got a little sad and opened up, said she had no friends, that everyone at her old school avoided her because of her eye color and hair. It made her terrified that it would be the same everywhere she went. Umi got it immediately. She reached out her hand, and from that moment on, Yu wouldn't be alone anymore. That's how their bond began. Umi brought Yu over to meet her friends. At first, Yu was a little nervous, like totally on edge. But the girls were completely obsessed with her. She was gorgeous and adorable. It was incredible. Because of Umi, Yu made new friends. And after that, her bright smile started winning over everyone around her. Things were going great until they started to shift in middle school, when Umi and Yu ended up in the same class again. The other two girls, though, were in different classes. Yu hit the ground running in the new class. She had this natural talent for drawing attention, no joke. Some girls whispered in corners, saying they'd brag about being friends with Yu. Umi didn't understand what they meant by that back then. But by 7th grade, she understood everything. People were saying Umi wasn't on Yu's level, that Yu had become the most popular girl around. They were jealous of Umi for that. It was messed up. And when Umi invited everyone out, she had 4 tickets, just enough for the whole group. But the girls made up some random excuse. It seemed normal at the time, except they were cutting Umi out. Her whole world felt like it shattered when she watched the 3 of them leave her behind like that. Yu, though, had no clue. She asked the girls where Umi was. They said she was busy studying. All of that happened before high school. Yu finally realized that Umi hadn't switched schools because of tuition. She was running from all that pain. But Yu went after her anyway. Yu said she would always come after Umi. She was her best friend. No matter how much the other two meant to her, Umi was number 1. Umi explained that that was exactly what had become a problem for her. Sure, she was happy to be Yu's best friend, but it kept backfiring. Because Yu was super popular and only had Umi as a friend from outside of school, people were insanely jealous. And everyone who had ever been friends with Umi ended up ditching her just to be closer to Yu. Maki understood in that moment why their friendship had been kept a secret. Umi didn't want to lose another friend she had worked so hard to have. Umi looked straight at Yu and asked point blank, "Do you like me?" Yu wasn't going to deny that. Said she liked her a lot. Umi confessed that she liked Yu a lot too, but that at the same time she kind of hated her. That hit hard. Umi needed to clear her head. Yu didn't even have time to stop her from walking out. The atmosphere got heavy, so Maki decided to go have a talk with Umi and went after her. When he opened the door to the room, Umi was standing quietly, lost in thought, staring out the window. Maki walked up and told her how incredible she was for carrying all of that weight for so long, like nothing was wrong. Umi looked down and admitted that yeah, she had pushed herself really hard. Nina came up the stairs and ran right into the 2 depressed girls passing by her. She went straight to the rooftop, and the 3rd depressed person she found was Yu, sitting there reflecting on everything, thinking she needed to really sort things out in her head. Meanwhile, Umi let it out, said how much she hated herself, because she had done to Yu the exact thing she hated. She hid her friendship with Maki, lied, and had fun without her. Maki gave her his advice. He thought it might be better for the 2 of them to take a step back. Since Umi wanted to fix things with Yu, she'd have to breathe for a second and pause another friendship. Then he started rambling, trying to soften what he'd just said. Umi told him to shut up. Maki talked way too much, seriously. She wanted to be heard for once. She held his hands and wanted to know what he actually felt, whether he'd be upset if he couldn't see her anymore. He answered, "Of course I would." To Umi, that felt almost impossible to believe, but she admitted that Maki was right and thanked him for being honest. The 2 of them walked off hand in hand to go fix things. Umi explained that the closeness between them was recent, but that Maki was just a friend. one just as important as you. She just wanted to apologize to you now, and then she got an earful. She really should apologize for leaving you so scared of losing her best friend, especially since Maki was smarter and kinder. That stung Umi too, for putting you through all of that. You pulled her into a hug, and also apologized for not realizing that Umi had been hurting. The two of them felt like total idiots standing there. Umi said she was thinking about distancing herself from Maki, said that if she didn't do that, she wouldn't be able to move forward. Yu wasn't having any of that nonsense, because if they were going by that logic, the one who'd end up hurting was Maki. Since he also wanted to keep hanging out with Umi, it would just flip the roles around. Nothing would actually change. Yu had a proposition. The two of them could only be her friends if they did what she said. That request made Umi furious. Yu wanted the two of them to walk through the festival holding hands, just like a couple. But whatever, the two of them went through with it, completely mortified. They even ended up getting filmed in that situation. Next stop was the haunted house, except Maki was a total wimp. He walked out of there traumatized, poor guy. Umi went to the window and stood there taking in the mosaic. Maybe they'd actually win the competition. Looking down, she spotted Yu making up with the other two girls. And after all that craziness, the festival was finally over. As always, a Friday at Maki's place, him making snacks for Umi, while Yu was planted in a corner asking everyone to just pretend she wasn't there. Yu had made one more request this time around. She wanted to see that little secret game the two of them had. Maki and Umi went all in on the video game, and, as always, Umi lost. She asked for a rematch, lost again. She gave up. Then the two of them remembered Yu was there. Umi went over to her and apologized, because hanging out with Maki was something special, genuinely fun, and the idea of going without seeing him was unbearable. She wanted Yu's permission to keep having those moments with Maki. Yu was totally cool with it, but with one little condition: she'd be leaning on Umi a lot more from here on out. The two hugged, and Yu said she was looking forward to their next conversations, but announced she was heading out. She'd leave Umi and Maki alone. He'd prefer it that way, right? Maki said he didn't really care either way, but Yu wasn't giving him a choice. He was going to want it. So the two of them ended up watching a movie through the night, until Maki started feeling a chill. Umi fixed that, grabbed a blanket and called him over to snuggle up. The two of them got all cozy together. Umi asked Maki if she could call him by his first name. He said sure, and got flicked on the forehead for being smug about it. It was a little awkward for Maki, but he told Umi that when she smiled, she was cuter than anyone else he'd ever seen. That made Umi's heart squeeze, but it made her genuinely want to know if Maki liked her, so she asked him straight up. Maki got flustered, didn't answer, completely froze. Their night together ended, and Umi was already standing at her front door. Maki was already talking about the next time they'd see each other. Before going inside, Umi asked one more time if Maki liked her, with those eyes absolutely glowing. Maki kept stalling, asked what she meant by that, and turned the question right back around on her. Umi thought about it for a second, then said she didn't like Maki. She leaned in and pressed a little kiss to his cheek, then told him she loved him, but if he wanted a real kiss, he'd have to tell her he liked her first. Umi floated inside, completely beside herself over the whole thing, and Maki stood frozen outside, totally short-circuited.